Welcome back to Crunch Time, a panel discussion about your favorite topic, sports.
Drew Brees is not a top 10 quarterback in NFL history. It's simple as that.
How do you say that? Drew Brees, you cannot argue with stats.
I know for a fact it's going to be the best team in the East. It is the Toronto Raptors because of who? Kawhi Leonard.
I'm going to talk about another team that I want to be a Cinderella story so bad, and that's UCF. I talked about it earlier. They're ranked 12th in the nation. They beat Auburn last year in their bowl game.
It's Crunch Time.
Hello everyone and welcome to Crunch Time, a panel discussion about your favorite topic, sports. This week we have three panelists, two returning champions kind of. We have Ernie from last week and Nick from 2 weeks ago because Nick was off last week, so he's back to try to reclaim his throne. And of course on the end is Miles Nelson, also trying to knock off both of our former champions. So we are going to get right into the sports. You guys ready to get going?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. We're going to kick off with some of the most shocking news coming from this offseason in the NFL as Giants star receiver Odell Beckham Jr. was shipped off to Cleveland. In return, the New York Giants were sent a 17th pick in the draft, a third-round pick, and safety Jabril Peppers. Beckham is joining a scary young team of Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, and former college teammate Jarvis Landry. So guys, how much better have the Browns gotten with the addition of OBJ? Ernie, you're going to start us off.
They've improved so greatly with this. I mean, they already had Landry on the team, which is a great wide receiver. Chubb's a great running back. Mayfield's only going to get better with time. He had a pretty good rookie year, didn't start off right away, but then got better. I think the Cleveland Browns just performed one of the best trades I've seen in a while in the NFL. I mean, they gave up a good safety and a first-rounder, but it's only the 17th pick and a 95th overall pick from the third round to get Odell Beckham Jr., one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. That's going to be a big, well, not big size-wise, but a big-name target for Baker Mayfield to aim through his entire career.
Gotcha. Nick?
You know, I think the Browns now are a relevant team in the NFL, and the addition of Odell Beckham Jr. is something that the Browns probably never expected to happen, but it's now realistic, it's solid, it's set. OBJ had 77 receptions for 1,000-plus yards and 6 touchdowns last season. That would have made him the number one wide receiver in Cleveland and put him alongside Landry. That duo will take up so much attention from opponents defensively that it will open up the rest of the game for young receiver Antonio Callaway and young tight end David Njoku. This could really help. And Odell and Jarvis have very special personality, so to speak. They can be kind of troubled at times, but I feel like if Odell gets 14 receptions,
we're going to go on to
2,
Miles.
they can keep each other calm.
Quick.
Yeah, I think this was a huge trade for Cleveland, and I just want to talk about the impact on the Giants. I think this was one of the worst moves I've seen from a front office in a long time, although they did get relatively okay compensation with a first and a third and a player. It's still a huge cap hit. They've lost $29 million compared to franchise tagging him a year ago when they signed a huge extension. They're facing a lot of dead cap space here. And then they've signed Golden Tate. It's like trading in a Ferrari for a Honda Civic. It's not even comparable. It's really an unfortunate move for them. I think Gettleman should be out soon.
So I think it's very tough to keep in mind what you're saying, because the general manager of the New York Giants, like you just mentioned, Gettleman, he stressed the purpose of signing Odell was not meant to trade him. They wanted to have Odell in there long term, and there must have been some internal thing that we don't know about yet, but they didn't want to trade Odell when they signed him to an extension. He was the face of that franchise, but now Odell will get a new start with realistically a better quarterback. And I think
I agree.
The Giants, you're right, they didn't win the trade, but
Something else to go to. Do you guys think that this will be the deadliest wide receiver combo in the league this year?
Absolutely.
You could definitely make that argument, because the other one of contention would have been Pittsburgh with Juju and Antonio Brown, but
Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen. I think that's probably the best duo right now. And this duo, if Baker Mayfield continues to improve, this is going to be deadly for them.
You also got to think about having Nick Chubb as a running back to pair
Kareem
with
Hunt.
them.
And Kareem Hunt.
The
offensive power is going to be insane.
Weapons all around. They're making the playoffs.
All right,
this year.
we're gonna cut this off. This was, of course, our big crunch, and I'm going to give those points to Ernie. I think you really summed it up right away at the beginning. This is a huge pickup for the Browns and should make them just one of the top teams in the league. So you get 2 points there, and we are going to move on to our next topic, some more offseason stuff. After months of wondering, speculation, and confusion, Antonio Brown has finally found a new home with John Gruden and the Oakland Raiders. Oakland acquired the disgruntled all-pro receiver for a third-round pick and a fifth-round pick, as well as paying him big bucks. Brown's new contract will pay the receiver $50 million over the next 3 seasons, in which $30 million is guaranteed money, making the highest paid receiver in the highest paid receiver in the NFL. Here's what Brown said in his first press conference with the Raiders.
I'm extremely grateful to be here. It's what a great opportunity for me and my family. I know I'm excited just how I got here, and I'm looking forward to making these guys proud.
So, guys, what is your thoughts on this whole situation and who won this trade? Nick?
I mean, I think it's very obvious that Oakland won the trade. Pittsburgh wanted to get rid of Antonio Brown. They tried to get him to the Bills. That didn't happen, and they settled for getting a 3rd and a 5th-round pick. Looking specifically at Oakland, they got rid of their best receiver, Amari Cooper, gave him to Dallas, but they quickly filled that spot with Antonio Brown. He's a great receiver. He's got 1,000 receiving yards every single season for the last 6 years. He's done it 7 out of 9 times in his career. And now the Raiders hold 3 first-round draft picks this year. And
we're going to have to move on, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I think this was one of the worst trades I've seen since Randy Moss was shipped off for a 4th-round pick to the Patriots. This is unreal. The Steelers are down $22 million this year in dead cap, which is 11% of their cap space for the entire year. And the Oakland Raiders get the best receiver in the NFL. I don't see how you could let this guy go, even if you want him gone, for something so low as a 3rd and a 5th. Unless you're going to pick up the next Tom Brady, I think this was a horrible move.
Gotcha. Let's go to Ernie.
I have to agree completely with you guys. I thought the Giants got ripped off, and then the Steelers got even a bigger, worse deal on this. They got the 66th and the 101st round pick for Antonio Brown, a man who's at his worst in the last 5 years, had 1,200 yards and had 9 touchdowns or more in all of the last 5 seasons. This man's incredible. The Raiders have had so many bad trades last year, and I think Gruden might have actually just saved his job with this. I mean, after getting rid of defensive players and Amari Cooper, and I mean, it's an unbelievable trade to me.
See, Ernie, I struggle with what you say because the Steelers didn't really get ripped off as much as the Giants did. The Giants, to our knowledge, had no reason of trading Odell Beckham Jr. It was clearly obvious that the Steelers wanted to deal Antonio Brown, and
but the Giants got fair compensation at least.
It doesn't matter if it's fair compensation or not. The Steelers had to accept the terms of that trade as well as Oakland.
No, they didn't. They could have held on to him or
traded
someone with more money or
why is Antonio Brown in Oakland?
All right, guys, we're going to end off this topic. I like the discussion. I like how it's getting a little heated in here. We're going to keep going, but the point, I'm going to give that one to Miles. I like what he said about the dead cap space. That is a real money suck for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are out a big wide receiver. Going on to one more thing that makes this a truly memorable offseason in the NFL history is all-star running back Le'Veon Bell choosing his destination, which is now with the New York Jets, to play along with New York with second-year quarterback Sam Darnold. The 2-time All-Pro inked a 4-year, $52 million deal in the Meadowlands, finally ending the drama from last year. So, guys, do you think sitting that last season out was of benefit for Le'Veon? Miles?
I don't think so. His holdout, he sat out for $14.5 million on the franchise tag just to sign a $13 million average annual deal with the Jets in free agency and go to a team that was 4-12 with no big threats on the team. I think this was a move that he had to take the best that was given to him because people weren't calling his bluff. They didn't care. They didn't care that he sat out. They know that he's getting old. And I think he probably could have done better if he tried to push for a good year last year, not sitting out, and then big money teams like the Raiders and Colts could have come along this year.
All right, we got to move on to
Ernie. Huge contract.
I agree with you completely. This man was offered $70 million on a 5-year deal. Doesn't take that. Granted, there was only $20.5 million of guaranteed money with the Steelers, and there's guaranteed $25 million with the Jets. But even if he hits all of his marks, the most he can get with his incentives is $61 million. That's $9 million drop off. And he sat out that year and missed out on all of that money as well. And I think it took a hit to his overall career. People see him as a player with a bad attitude type of thing. And
Gotcha. Going on, Nick?
I think New York's a fresh start for Le'Veon. I don't really agree with you guys, and I get that he's making less money, but at the end of the day, it's his decision. It's another scenario that kind of circles around the Antonio Brown thing. He wasn't happy in Pittsburgh. He wanted to leave, and he was so passionate about leaving that's why he took a pay cut. And I think that it was blatantly obvious that he was the number one running back before he sat out. And I think this is going to be really crucial for the Jets because the Jets were ranked third in long drives, and Sam Darnold dropped back for 41% of those passes, and Le'Veon can really help that backfield give the Jets an offensive boost so they're not always in that third and long situation, it's going to be an immediate impact.
I understand that, but at the same time, the Steelers, how bad was their running game last year? They had a great running game without Le'Veon Bell. That took a hit to him as well. I understand it's his decision, but I think it was a bad one.
They were a team that was
honestly.
just a half a game away from a playoff booth. They got beat out by the Ravens.
For him financially
That's something that
and
they would have had a
We are
great
going to
playoff run
have
with
to-
He's not
Le'Veon.
worried about his
We are going to have to cut you guys off. I do agree with Nick here. I think that he really, it was really up to Le'Veon's decision. I think he's going to be making a really big thing here for himself. So Nick gets the point here. And we will head into our first break. When we come back, we will have more about LeBron James and then a little bit about the Lakers as we move into some basketball right here on Crunch Time. The age-old debate continues as this past week, LeBron James surpassed Michael Jordan for 4th in NBA career points when the Lakers took on the Denver Nuggets. Outpour over all the league congratulating the King on his latest accomplishment, but we still haven't answered a question, guys. Has LeBron surpassed Jordan as the greatest basketball player of all time? What do you guys think, Ernie?
I think he's an incredible player, honestly. I give him big-time praise for passing him, and especially at the age that he's at right now. I think he's been getting a little bit of a bad rap with the Lakers because of all the turmoil they've had this year. He had the groin injury. Sure, it took him more games to get to this scoring mark than Jordan, but he did it in less shots, and LeBron hasn't always been a shoot-first player. He's a pass-first kind of guy. He's way ahead of Jordan in assists and rebounds and most other statistical categories. I think Jordan's still a better scorer. He always has been. That's what Jordan did. But I think overall it's gotten a lot closer.
So, it's tough. I think the tough thing with LeBron James is this will be overshadowed by, like we mentioned, the struggles of the Lakers this season, but it's tough because Michael Jordan left the sport of basketball to play baseball, and I think this would be a little bit different. It might have taken LeBron a little bit longer if Mike would have played basketball his whole career. It took LeBron 150 more games, 4,900 more minutes, 868 more free throws. It's just statistically, LeBron James, when his career is over, he will be better than Mike.
Gotcha.
But Mike was still the GOAT.
On to Miles.
Yeah, I think it's a huge milestone in a career full of them to pass Michael Jordan on the scoring list. He's got only 3 ahead of him. On the list, Kobe, Karl Malone, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. If he keeps playing at roughly the rate he is, about 2,000 points a season as his career average, he can be there before the age that Michael Jordan retired to go to baseball. So he can exceed everyone in the league that's ever played in scoring. And I think another ring and one more spot on the scoring list at least, and he's the GOAT.
Yeah, I can see your point there with Jordan retiring, and then those 2 years. What could have happened during that time? But at the same time, you can't take that away from LeBron. He scored at a great pace, and like I said, he's still a pass first. Gets the rebounds, gets his team involved.
Gotcha. So really quick, who is your GOAT right now? Just go down the line, Ernie.
LeBron James.
Michael Jordan.
It's MJ by a smidge, but LeBron's getting closer every game.
It's close.
It's not
It's
a smidge.
close.
All right, we are going to end that topic. I think I've got to stick with Nick still here on this one. I think that MJ is still holding on to being one of the greatest. Maybe like Miles said, after a ring and maybe a couple more points, getting up that list, he can be a little bit better. We're going to move on, though, to some Lakers topics, because even though LeBron passed Jordan on the all-time scoring record list, the Lakers are still not in the playoff picture. Before Christmas, the Lakers were once a top 5 team in the Western Conference, and now everything that could have gone wrong for the purple and gold has happened this season. Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram are out for the rest of the year, and LeBron will be on a minute restriction until the end of the season. So, guys, what are your thoughts on the Lakers this season, and who is to blame for their struggles? Nick?
I first want to address what you mentioned in your introduction to this topic. It all hinged around Christmas time when they had the 5th spot in the Western Conference, but that was the day LeBron James got injured, and as a result, like you mentioned, Ball, Ingram got hurt, LeBron's missed games, Rondo's missed 34 games, all of them combined, and I know it's not at the same time, 65 points, 25 rebounds, 24 assists. That's a lot of stuff, but I think the main thing is that it goes back to the coaching staff. I don't think Luke Walton is meant to be the coach for the Lakers or the coach
Gotcha.
for
We're going to
LeBron.
go on to Miles.
Yeah, it's 100% injuries. I don't think it's particularly anyone's fault. When you have big-time players like Brandon Ingram, a rising star like Lonzo Ball out of the game, and LeBron James is in and out, Rajon Rondo a veteran in and out, that's always going to hurt your team no matter how good the players you have are. I mean, when the real problem in-game for them is defensively and at the free throw line. They're losing. They're 30th in the NBA from the free throw line, 23rd in offensive rebounds. They're not getting the job done when it matters in the paint if it's in-game
Going on,
play.
Ernie.
See, I can agree with that, and part of that is with Lonzo Ball's injury is they were so much better defensively with Lonzo. I think everyone is too quick to look at his stats instead of looking at how he affects the game. I mean, you look at players like Kyle Lowry, Al Horford. These players affect the game without blowing up the stat sheet. And yeah, LeBron injured. They took out the Golden State Warriors on Christmas Day. Everyone's saying, can Golden State beat them in, Western Conference Finals? And that injury derailed them, and they've had injuries to Ingram and Rondo, and everyone's getting hurt on this team. I think the Anthony Davis saga definitely hurt them. I mean, everyone on that team except for LeBron James was worried about getting traded. They lost their identity with that, and they also lost their identity with LeBron getting hurt. Who's in charge now? Who's the leader? Who's the big man in this team? And they kind of lost sight of that, and then they all were worried about getting traded. It was just, it all blew up at once for them.
I think the key to keep your eye on is the coach, Luke Walton. LeBron has influenced the front office and who's his coach in the past when he was in Cleveland. I think it might happen again. I don't know who's going to fill that spot, but Luke Walton's definitely on the hot seat.
All right, we are going to end this topic. I completely agree with Nick again. Starting to roll, getting hot here, getting his third point. I mean, I agree. Luke Walton just doesn't seem like he is prepared to be the NBA coach and of a franchise that could be as good as the LA Lakers have been historically. And we are going to move on now to some college basketball where conference tournaments are either wrapping up or just getting started. Many teams on the bubble are trying to add that last game to the resume that could help them get into the dance. Teams like TCU, NC State, St. John's, and Ohio State are a set of few teams that have some work to do in order to impress the tournament committee. But these teams are on the bubble. Who do you see getting in, and who do you see falling short of just making the dance? Miles?
All right, to start off, the team I have getting in is Ohio State. I think that getting Caleb Wesson back from his suspension and getting 17 points in his first game back, helping them get past Indiana was big. Now they have a huge matchup against Michigan State. If they win that, that's going to put them in the dance 100%. And the team I think is getting out, Minnesota. I think tonight they're going to fall versus Penn State, and that's going to be it, unfortunately, for the gold and maroon.
All right, Ernie?
See, I can agree with the Ohio State thing. They got the big win in Indiana. Indiana's comeback bid fell just short. I don't think they can beat Michigan State, but I think they're going to make it into the tournament anyway. But a team I think you need to look out for is Seton Hall. All right, this team has peaked at the perfect time. They got wins at home against Villanova, and they beat Marquette, who's ranked number 23 in the nation. They've got some big wins. I think they're going to win their next game. They've got Miles Powell averaging 22 points a game. That's a big-time scorer for a team, and they're just peaking at the perfect time for this to be that underdog role that can come in and upset someone in the tournament.
Gotcha. All right, Nick?
And I'm going to take my team out of the AAC. The Houston Cougars, yes, they are the number one going into the conference tournament, but they're still kind of on that bubble. Obviously, if they win the tournament, that's kind of their ship and seal for them. They don't have a long list of great wins, but they are 1-0 against top 25 teams, and that speaks a lot for a team in a smaller conference that doesn't necessarily get those opportunities to play a lot of Big Ten or like big name teams. I think the key for the Cougars is they outscore their opponents by 15 points per game. And I get, you put it in conference, you weigh the conferences, but still, it's not easy to beat teams by 15 points per game. I'm going to have to say my team that is out, NC State, the Wolfpack, won't be in the tournament this year. They nearly escaped Clemson, not to mention they played in a game against Virginia Tech where they only scored 24 points. If you score 24 points in a college basketball game at the Division I level, you don't deserve to make the tournament at all.
Yeah,
I agree. I think the problem for Seton Hall, though, Ernie, is going to be that the Big East can only send a couple teams, and I think when you have Nova and Marquette there, I think the next team in is Xavier.
We gotta end it off. I mean, I think I'm gonna have to disagree with you there, Miles. I think that Ernie had it all right on the nose. This Big East has always had strong teams, like you said, Marquette, Xavier, Butler. Bring in the heat, and if Seton Hall gets in there and they're peaking right now, it is the time for them to go in. We are going to go into break now, and when we come back, we will continue looking at some of the conferences in baseball as we get closer and closer to opening day. We'll have more on that when we get back on Crunch Time. All right, welcome back to Crunch Time. We're going to take a quick look at our score. Right now, it is a close race with Ernie with 3, Nick also with 3, but Miles has 1, but he has a chance to come back as we have 2 more topics in this show. We'll see if they can tie it all up. We're going to continue this week with our previews of the MLB divisions. This week, we're going to take a look at the Central Division, starting off with the AL. The Indians will try and win the division for a 5th straight year, led by Francisco Lindor and Jose Ramirez. The Twins signed a number of key free agents to help close the gap and get back into the playoffs. The White Sox were unable to sign Manny Machado after being one of the favorites in the offseason, but the Sox still have one of the best farm systems in the league. The Tigers will continue rebuilding process along with 11-time All-Star Miguel Cabrera, and the Royals were quiet in the offseason after losing over 100 games. What are you guys' thoughts on the AL Central, and how are teams stacking up for you guys? Ernie?
I think it's definitely the Indians are going to win. There's a reason Vegas gave them the best odds to win this division, and it was hands down. I mean, their pitching staff, it's a good problem to have when you don't know who your ace is for a baseball team, first of all. And they've got the great hitting. You talked about Ramirez and Lindor both hitting over 30 home runs, excuse me. Good batting averages to boot with it. They won 91 games last year. I'd be surprised if they don't win just as many this year, if not maybe even a few more after that.
Nick?
You know, I'm going to have to go against you, and I have to go with the Minnesota Twins. There are a lot of things that are happening for them. We talked about Marwin Gonzalez, Nelson Cruz being added to the Twins roster, and that definitely helps the Twins on the bat side of things. But I think this is going to be more than just kind of a team effort. Byron Buxton's going to have a breakout season. I know we've said it before, like this is the year. So far up to spring training, his batting average is 400, 1,000 slugging percentage, 144 in OPS. He's shown in games in spring training he can work an 0-2 count with patience at the plate, making the count full, and getting a walk or getting on base somehow, some way. It's tough that Sano starts on the injured list.
All right, we're going to go to Miles.
Yeah, I've got to go with the Twins, but for different reasons. I think the rookies and the new coach, Rocco Baldelli, are going to be the keys to the Twins ascending to the top of this division this year. I think Alex Kirilloff is already looking good in preseason play. I think that the Twins farm system is finally going to start coming through from what we know from years and years of hearing that we have the best farm system. I think this coaching staff is someone that can really bring these guys to fruition, and combine that with Byron Buxton getting hot and the rest of the team of veterans. I think this is a team to watch out for this year.
I'm sorry, Miles. I'll be quick. I don't think Alex Kirilloff makes the team. He's still going to be in the farm system. And the farm system, yeah, you know, the White Sox have one. We have a young one, but it's not going to help this year specifically. Kirilloff's not going to make the team. Gordon's not going to make the team. Our prospects won't be in the MLB for another 2 years.
I think they've got a good team, and I think they'll be the second-place team in the division, but they just don't have enough good pitching in that bullpen with them. They have a good starting pitcher, but they...
All right, we are going to wrap up this topic. Good debate. I'm going to give this point to Nick. I think that the Twins are going to get hot, and it's going to be at key to some of those big players that are coming in. We're going to move on to the NL Central now, switching over to the National League Central, as this could be the most exciting division in baseball this season. The Brewers made it to the NLCS last season, and Christian Yelich was named the NL MVP. The Cubs will try to make it to the playoffs once again after they lost in the NL wildcard game last season. The Cardinals added MVP candidate Paul Goldschmidt and lefty reliever Andrew Miller. The Reds acquired Yasiel Puig, Matt Kemp, and Alex Wood from the Dodgers, and the Pirates were quiet, but will try to finish over 500 for a second straight year. So how do you see the NL Central playing out after 4 of the 5 teams finished over 500 last year? Nick?
I think that this is going to be the tightest division in all of the Major League Baseball, but I still have to stick with the Milwaukee Brewers. They've shown that they are the powerhouse in the NL Central. They're going to ride the success of last season. They won 96 games. The Brew Crew will also use their bullpen to give them solid games, especially in late August and September when those games really matter. You know, the bullpen, it's a factor, but it's not huge when you start the season in April. But this Brewers team is special, and not to mention they added Yasmani Grandal to give them an extra boost this season.
All right, going on to Miles.
Yeah, I've got to go with the dark horse. I'm going with the Cardinals. I think they have room to continue to grow. I think Yadier Molina, Jose Martinez, and Matt Carpenter are a huge core for them to build around. More talent in the bullpen coming in through the offseason I think will help them out. Like you mentioned, Goldschmidt, huge addition to the roster. I think that this team can actually surpass the Cubs.
All right, we're going to go on to Ernie.
See, I can agree with this, and also I do think the Brewers are going to win it, but I think this is still going to be the most competitive and close division in all of baseball. You saw how close it was last year with the Brewers and the Cubs coming down to having to play an extra game to decide who's that number 1 seed in the wild card. Cubs kind of fell apart at the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if they make the wild card again, but the Brewers were just 1 game shy of making it to the NLCS. At home, they really could have won that game, and Christian Yelich is incredible as the reigning MVP of that team, and then they've got great in their bullpen with Hader, and then Knebel's a great closer for them as well, and just big bats all around them.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be the Cardinals this year. I think it's funny how you mentioned Yadier Molina and Matt Carpenter as the core of that team when they just added Paul
We're actually going to cut this debate off early. I kind of disagree with Nick here. I think that the adding of Paul Goldschmidt is huge for this team that's been great in the past. I'm going to give that point to Miles. and we are going to head to break. When we come back, we will have our champion be crowned right here on Crunch Time. Stay with us. All right, we are back here with our champion. I guess you could say reigning champion because he's won 2 weeks in a row, took a week off, and he's back in the champion seat again. Nick Speliopoulos, how does it feel to win?
It feels pretty good. I mean, it was weird having the week off. Thankfully, I got a spot back on the panel, but I'm going to take a second of my time to talk about one of the favorite topics right now in March Madness, Nebraska ball. They upset Maryland today in the Big Ten tournament. Nebraska's the 13 seed. Things aren't looking good for Nebraska right now. They currently have 7 players that are healthy. 2 players, James Palmer Jr. and Glenn Watson Jr., played all 40 minutes of the game. They combined for 43 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. They added 18 points together from beyond the arc. And their bench, which is only made up of 2 players, scored 5 points, like myself, who won 3 straight. Nebraska ball's looking to make it 3 tomorrow.
Do you think they're going to make it all the way and win the championship this year?
The Big Ten championship, I think it's tough. Tomorrow they have Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's a good team. But
all right,
we'll see.
We're going to have to cut you off. Congratulations on winning this week. We will see you next week on Crunch Time.